who knows? Tomorrow we could be job seekers on the hunt, and we're out there and we're wanting more information, like more authenticity, transparency from these companies that we want to work for, that we admire. And I put myself back in that mindset to say, okay, hey, listen, I actually have the chance to give back. I've got that bit of power where, okay, it's not that, okay, I can't control the hiring manager's decision, but I can make it a little clearer for people who are out there looking to find their next job.
All right. Everybody, I'm so happy to have a friend in the space for many years, and one whose mind I find to be brilliant as a thought leader and as a practitioner. Alex Herr, welcome to Employer Branding Unfiltered.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm sure you say that about everyone, but I'll take the compliment.
Well, you are brilliant in my eyes and many others. So it's good to be with
Oh,
you, man.
thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
it's been a while.
It has. We typically have the luxury of running into each other at conferences during conference season,
Hmm.
all over the country. And we always find ourselves, I think, in really good conversations, not only about the space, but just in general. And I was excited to bring you onto the show because I think employer branding in general is getting a lot more shine than it has historically. But
Hmm.
even
I
with
agree.
the right, but even with the increased intrigue and awareness that you need an employer brand, I think there's other constraints popping up, and we'll get into all of that stuff. But I want the audience to get a sense of, you in this space. And I would love to start with a question that I ask everybody. When did you fall in love with employer brand? How did you get here?
Um, I got here by accident. I Yeah, so about 7 years now. I took a contract position at Cox Automotive, so specifically V Auto in Austin. And at the time, you didn't see the job titles now, right? There wasn't talent brand, recruitment marketing, EB. It was digital marketing assistant or specialist. And got into that, and as I was, doing the work for the position, yeah, I was doing SEO optimization, but for jobs, and I didn't wrap my head around that initially because I was working at an agency at the time, so I was doing everything on the back end. And then once I did get the job and I was working with my teammates, I was going through all these, like social projects and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, wow, this is what we're doing is what inspired me because I moved from Michigan to Austin, and I kid you not, I applied for like 400 jobs. I got denied by each one of them. But
Whoa.
what made me excited though with each of the jobs is like the companies where they show the people, the cheesy foosball table, pool table, and people hanging out. And I found myself instantly in that position. So, I looked at myself as a job seeker. This is my chance to give back. I could be, you're part of the cool crowd, right? You're doing those cool things for everyone, but you're trying to take that to the next level. And I think that's when it kicked in. I mean, that along with being a contractor and realizing, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm getting fired, or I gotta go elsewhere. I gotta go back to insurance or IT, one of the two. So I gotta
Oh,
make it work.
wow. Wow. That's interesting. The foosball and the obligatory pictures of people having fun not doing work at work. I find that
Hmm.
interesting. Like the way that we advertise to come and join a company is by showing people not doing work. I always found that interesting. like,
Exactly.
like
It's
come,
like true. You may do that if you have time during lunch, but you're not sitting there half of the day and playing video games or foosball. It doesn't happen.
right, right. Funny enough, I remember at one company I was at, leading global employer brand, and they had ping pong tables. And it's like, a modern office, contemporary, whatever. They have these table tennis, ping pong tables
Hmm.
out there on the floor. So, me and a couple of the interns or some of the leaders would play. and it's a loud game. It's I'm sure it's distracting, but we're having fun, we're
Yeah.
talking smack, and then next one day I come in and the ping pong tables have been removed. So I'm like, oh, I guess they put those there just as like the illusion of these are here for you to play, not actually for you to use them. It's funny.
Oh yeah. Was a trap then.
It was a trap. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, because I like ping pong.
All good, all good.
All right, so you accidentally fall into this work. You find that it's exciting and it leverages skills and it offers you an opportunity to sort of give back and promote. What then? What did you see as the opportunity to put your mark on this work? Like, not just right, because you had to figure it out. There's no like, you didn't go to college for this, right? So how did you
Oh,
adapt that to your own style and then take it forward?
I think just looking at uh, it's a bit of a hustle and a struggle, honestly.
Mm.
When you look at
Hmm.
all of us, we're job seekers, right? Right now we have the pleasure of talking on this podcast here, but who knows? Tomorrow we could be job seekers on the hunt, and we're out there and we're wanting more information, like more authenticity, transparency from these companies that we want to work for, that we admire. And I put myself back in that mindset to say, okay, hey, listen, I actually have the chance to give back. I've got that bit of power where, okay, it's not that, okay, I can't control the hiring manager's decision, but I can make it a little clearer for people who are out there looking to find their next job. And I think it was a bit of that, and just the different technologies and social platforms that we all love using. It's ever evolving. TikTok wasn't a thing back when I got into it. I know early on when I met you, it wasn't a thing, and here it is. It's a must-have. AI is
Hmm.
part of that. So it's constantly growing with everything around us. And on top of that, like it's always a fun challenge. It is literally it's a sink or swim type of setup where, okay, hey, if you don't adapt, you're gonna fall behind, and then you can't really copycat anybody because you want to be different. So it forces you to like constantly educate yourself, constantly just get out there and innovate. And
Yeah.
I like that. It's a high pressure situation, and it's not high pressure where you feel sick on a Sunday, but it's like, okay, hey, listen, we got to make stuff happen. It's a challenge. There's always no one day is the same, and I think that's probably what I love the most about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so good because I think you're highlighting um, what we know as people who have grown up in this industry as it's evolved to what it is today. That
Hmm.
it requires a bit of like grit and guerrilla tactics and figuring things out with no playbook. Like you are the playbook,
Yeah,
and right, and then try and hoping it works when you execute said plays.
agreed.
But yeah. So okay. So what kind of industries for the people listening have you brought employer brands to life in? Just so that they get a perspective.
Yeah, so when I was at Cox Automotive, it's easy to think of the automotive piece and, okay, hey, they're fixing cars and all, but much more than that. It's part of bigger Cox Enterprises is the actual parent company. So I had a
Hmm.
chance to work with, tech and corporate positions, people in the office, remote, auctioneer workers, which was unique with Mannheim. So I had a chance to, deal with that initially, and then call centers when it comes down to the automotive side, as well as with the media group. And then a lot of work with engineers. And I think that's the one thing that has been the most consistent with each stop that I've been at is you always work with engineers, right? So there's a strong appreciation. There's also a lot that you have to take in and learn about them. And then from Cox Automotive, it was Informatica. And it
Mm.
was, back before everyone was big on the cloud, they were into that, cloud data engineering, storing everything there, and then working just various positions as well, folks who were in sales, finance, and then over to the current stop here at GoDaddy. And it's okay, it's a mix of people who work the phones, they work chat, engineers again, and then the other thing has been just the global reach. I mean, once I left Cox and I got into just working on a global scale, there was no going back. I mean, it was like I'm not afraid to admit this. I'm a big fan of House Hunters International. So if international is on, that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm doing. And I always envision, hey, this maybe one of these opportunities gives me the chance to be that person on there who's going abroad. But I just love that aspect because there's so much diversity, so much variety with everything that you deal with these different companies, teams, employees, and then you add the global aspect, and that's icing on top of the cake right there.
Ooh, House Hunters Internationals. I watched the my guilty pleasure, I guess, especially when I first moved, was watching just House Hunters in general. But yes,
Oh yes,
it's amazing where we find inspiration for our work, right? Like and
true.
seeing how it all filters in. So okay, automotive tech, and then global, which I think global's a whole different beast when you think about how many people, not only just the expression of brand, but how many people are involved and how much you have to sell internally and get
Yep.
everybody you right singing from the same hymnal, as it were, and leveraging the brand consistently. How do you approach global when, let's say, from let's start from the build, right? No, let's go even further back. The buy-in, getting the buy-in internally, and that negotiation, the navigation, the education of executive leaders. How have you approached the buy-in all the way to the build and ultimately deployment of EB?
Yeah, I think the buy-in requires getting out of your own way, uh, taking a very empathetic approach. I think we always come into these companies that need branding and everything needed to be done yesterday, and it doesn't work that way. Like I can make things happen. I mean, we could spend some money, we could record videos, but like, what are we trying to do? What are the actual problems? And I think no one really sits down to understand that. But my approach is to speak to the people who've been there because they brought me in for a reason. They clearly know something's wrong. Someone has passed it on to TA, and then they brought me in to work with them. So speaking to regional managers, the recruiters, the people who are actually working in those different positions or departments we talked about, like engineering, sales, wherever, and make sure that it's a good variety across different countries. It's actually something I was brought in to do here at GoDaddy, where we weren't known in EMEA. We were known in the U.S. I think about commercials, commercials we had here before I became an employee. But it was a matter of okay, understanding. Did that transfer over to Europe? Is that even working? Do people know who we are? Do they know the product? Do they know the jobs, the people? And I think understanding, getting a strong understanding with the people I'm connecting with, and then from there say, okay, hey, now we know this is what the problem is. How can we best attack that? Because what may work in the UK may not work in Ireland, may work in Romania, may not work in Serbia. Everything's different. So understanding that I think goes a long way.
I love that. That's gold because I think oftentimes we have a vision of what's possible, but
Hmm.
often could, for the junior EB practitioners who want to run with the vision, but ignore the priorities of the people who sign the budgets, who assign and
Yep.
allocate funding. Uh, do so at your peril. Uh, we would not recommend that. We would not recommend that. And some of us
Oh
have
yeah.
tried that and learned the hard way. Um, but no, that's so real. And I think you know the translation of brand across regions has you have to have people on the ground who at some level understand employer brand, or at least its function, but then also there has to be somebody on the ground who can take accountability for it and make sure that it gets translated for cultural nuance, and not only translation but
True.
also the imagery, because we've seen some
Hmm.
brands that have used US photo shoots in Singapore, and that didn't work out so well. uh, yeah,
Yeah, just a little bit.
a little bit, yeah. So okay, um I think with the with the buy-in part, there's also a level of education. And I would love to hear your perspective on where do you think executive leadership is in their understanding of employer brand, and what it's designed to do versus what it's not designed to do.
I think we get lost in the fun images on social. You can see that
Okay.
we're announcing, hey, great place to work. We hit a certain star rating on reputation review sites, and that's kind of where it is. But that's really that's more of a reflection of the people, the culture, how they feel about things. And I don't think there's a strong understanding of, okay, like, deep into the weeds in terms of what we do. Like, how do we actually help out, lower the cost per applicant, cost per hire, the quality of source. How do we actually get that brand recognition and awareness? That's not it's something they don't know about. But I mean, I can't blame them. Having done this for 7 years, I think initially you think, okay, you're thinking so external, but the problem is there's that education, very much like how we talked about working with your stakeholders and understanding what their troubles are. We it's almost like we're afraid to have that conversation with leadership, or we're hoping that they see that, but there's a lot that they have that's going on, and we're not sharing that with them. So then when push comes to shove and they're making cuts, they don't know what we do. So it's
Hmm.
impossible for them to really know how important our work is when they only see maybe two or three things, and that's all they know about us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think especially when their expectation is, you know, how many hires did we get out of this? You know,
Hmm.
which I know that's a question you love from your
It
employer
is,
branding
it
work.
is, but
Yeah. What do you say to
yeah,
that when
true.
they
But
ask that?
I think you have to break down, like, okay, like they need more context behind it, right? So let's say if we're looking to, prop up a team in maybe an emerging market, they need to know what the struggles that you're going to be to even find people there, because it may be easy to go to a low cost region, but okay, do we have people who speak the language? Are our adverts even in the local language? Are we using it the right way? Because in some countries maybe you're using animated characters versus real people, which kind of goes against what we all like to do, but each market's different. But they have to know why you're running into those struggles. And, without knowing that, right, they're just simply looking at the data. So if you can't provide a story behind the data, I think you're kind of dead in the water there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to let your data tell a story. I think also knowing the story, telling the right story based on what we're trying to achieve, right? So I think
Hmm.
a lot of companies will come to the conclusion that they need an employer brand to attract, engage, or retain talent. Um, but I think there's a very specific conversation that has to be had about what is the purpose of an EVP, what is the purpose of an employer brand, what is the purpose of your
Yeah.
recruitment marketing, and then what are the outcomes you should expect from each of those, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that I think would solve a lot of our challenges in the EB space, you
Yeah.
know, right, from the leaders who sort of use employer brand as a catch-all for recruitment marketing, and recruitment marketing as a catch-all for everything else too. So, um, when you're building the case, when you're you know having the conversations with leadership around the approach to employer brand, also I think setting those uh, expectations for the outcomes is critical.
It is. It's critical, setting expectations, but also, you hit on this a little bit before with the data that we're sharing. Like,
Mm,
what story is that telling? And from a really good leader of mine, it's like, what are we gearing towards? So you're telling me this. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that amazing? What's our bench? Are we gearing towards something else? Because I think so much of what we do, it gets lost, and everyone's like, hey, EVP this. Well, that's great. The heck is the EVP going to do for us? Like, how is that going to help our share that with our CEO, our CFO? Like, how does that how does it help them out, right? We don't consider that. We're just it's too much out. Like, it's we get caught with being more of like a fad, a lot of buzzwords, which doesn't help people out, because you want to know what it all means. What are we all trying to do at the end of the day?
yeah, yeah, and there's a an ages old relationship issue in our space that every employer brand practitioner who's worth their salt has experienced in their career, and that is the
Hmm.
HR and marketing relationship, as you well know.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that one. Now, I don't want to say it's bad because I've heard stories where they're like, no, marketing is awesome. They understand, they get it. It's rare, but I have heard it before. So
Hmm.
I wonder your take on that. Not only I would love to hear actually your experiences in a positive light where you've had great relationships with marketing that have helped sort of bolster the work that you're doing, if you have them.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I do. I do. I
Good,
have the bad
good.
ones, but we'll focus on the good.
There we go.
Yeah, we have that now. With my current team, it's been phenomenal, and it's across the board. With comms, with marketing, with branding. And what I have found that has helped me out over the years has been okay. I think we get in. We're always we have a chip on our shoulder. Like, okay, we know that they don't like us. They think we're trying to copy what they're doing. That's not it, because their whole focus is somewhere else, right? Their audience segments, what the product that they're advertising, their metrics. It's different. We kind of play in that field too, but we also play in the same playground as TA. And it's more of okay, having, just like we were talking about with connecting with people and learning, kind of what their struggles are. It's also going to our peers on the comms and marketing side and saying, hey, listen, I know you're doing this, but our focus is our product is really our culture, our people, our requisitions, everything we have to share there. So I love what you're doing, and maybe how can we partner together? Because at the end of the day, if we all we all win together, we lose together. And I think getting an understanding there too, but also let them know that the terms of engagement and working with them, that okay, for comms, say, listen, I can copyright, I know these things, I'm not going to do anything stupid. For the branding and marketing folks, you understand the brand guidelines and you will adhere to them. You also will loop them in where it makes sense, but also there's stuff that you can take care of. I found that it's worked out way better versus where we try to go off and we do our own thing. It's more of a turf battle. And then you're wondering why you lose access to this channel, or why this person here is kind of, in your swim lane too. Like, it doesn't work when we don't want to have those open, honest conversations and we just try to go our own way. I think just addressing that up front has worked wonders. And I think, with my current situation, it's been amazing because,
Mhm.
we don't have these massive teams, like 10 or 20 people, and there are some out there. Kudos to them for how they did that. But I think leveraging what you have there, you have a lot of people on other departments and teams that can really assist you. But just being comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations, I think goes a long way.
Yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, the comms and marketing have way bigger budgets than we do, right? Like
Yep.
it it behooves us to be to play nice. And I think, look, I wonder that leads to the follow up question. Then is, where do you think employer brand is best situated within an organization?
I'm uh, I'm not going to plead the fifth or anything here, but reference a mutual friend of ours,
Sure.
James Ellis, and I think everything I've seen over the last several years, he's got the best answer or response to that. It doesn't matter where you sit, because if I sit in comms and I don't know what the headcount is or what we're gearing towards for recruitment, I'm done. I have really no leg to stand on, right? Because I'm creating amazing stuff that doesn't resonate with anybody. So I think no matter where you sit, and I've had a chance to sit in marketing, to sit in the service center, and then sit in TA. You got to work with everyone. So I think that battle kind of has to die off. I know people still try to revive it on LinkedIn, but no matter where you sit, you got to work with everyone. You got to be the ultimate teammate, the advocate, ultimate project manager, and like we say here at GoDaddy, like join forces with everyone. That's key. If you're so based on okay, whatever department I sit in, I'm just gonna do that, and I'm against everyone, and I'm just not gonna, it's never gonna work out. It probably won't work out if you're just being selfish.
Shouts out to James Ellis, the employer branding nerd, friend, longtime friend and luminary in this space for sure, and also a
Indeed.
fellow Virgo, and we're a day apart in birthdays. Little known fact. But yeah,
Wow.
no, James is absolutely right. It doesn't matter where it sits. I often say it should sit wherever it's the best funded. Like that's my position on that. But I've Look, I'll be honest. Historically, I was a staunch EB should sit in HR, right? Because it's a people it's a people centric activity. It needs to connect with everybody in the business, and HR is sort of in the people business. But I have since evolved to not being so hardline on that because I recognize if you can get the comms and marketing function, the CMO who is versed enough to say, look, employer branding should be an extension of corporate branding, comms and communication, marketing and positioning, then I think it sets up the function of employer branding to be more credible within the organization, get the funding flow it needs, the access it needs, and the support overarchingly that we tend not to have with our teams of, you know, 2 to 3 max, right, for a global
Yeah,
initiative. so, so I'm like,
that's
put it
true.
wherever it gets funded. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I think funding is definitely key. I think there's one thing with being scrappy and hey, I can do this on Canva or I can run these campaigns for 500 USD, but you need funding. So hey, if you can get that in TA, get that in internal comms and marketing, go wherever then.
that's right. That's right. So what are you seeing out there, man? What do you I know you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in our space. What are you seeing that's got your eyebrows raised as far as employer branding?
Um, yeah, I think people, gosh, this has been around forever, but employee advocacy. I think people are trying to understand it at a better level because it's been cool. Heck, LinkedIn has tried two different products that haven't worked. So we've seen it all over the last several years, but I think people are really trying to hone in on that because you can't always, be paying thousands of dollars, hey, even millions to job boards on LinkedIn, Indeed, some of these niche ones because there's a better way. And we always talk about with employer branding that people want to hear from other people because they're going to work with them eventually and they'll give them the lowdown on exactly what to expect, but it's enabling those individuals and finding the best way to make it work, providing the ROI, tracking, all that good stuff. And I think people are, they're getting better about that. They're really doing their homework. The other that I see is, you talked about having teams of 2 or 3 before. I still think that's the situation, but AI is one that's a huge differentiator that's going to make a difference because, instead of spending so much time like, doing market research when it comes to where we may be going, if it's going to be to Brazil or to, Taiwan or Japan in terms of recruitment. Okay, instead of spending hours, I can do a quick, chat GPT search and get that done. Or if I want to, build out, different sort of templates, I can have that done too. Messaging or, slice and dice videos. I mean, to be very transparent, I just for my own personal brand, right? I went ahead and sliced up some videos of previous podcasts in 5 minutes. And I have that to use off on TikTok, to push out on TikTok or LinkedIn. And if you were slicing on your own with QuickTime or Adobe Premiere, that's going to take it's going to be a good couple hours to make that happen, and it was done in 5 minutes. So
Look
I
at
think
that.
that is going to really help people out, like understaffed teams, or just not even teams that are fully staffed. You could be more strategic, and I think that's where we're getting towards.
That is awesome. What was the tool that you're using? Not GPT, but the one where you sliced up the video? Just for people want to look it up.
Let's see here. I believe it is Opus AI.
Opus
So
AI. Okay.
OPUS AI.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody check that out if you're trying to it sounds like side skirt the editing education and just get it done through AI. And I'm loving the boom in tools for folks like us that are into copywriting, that are into market research and refining positioning and all types of things. There's so many
Hmm.
tools out there for low cost or no cost in some cases that can make
I
us more
agree.
efficient and effective. I love that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so the other thought on that though is advocacy, and I wanted to go back because I viscerally remember the day that LinkedIn Elevate shut down, and I cried tears. It was I'm a huge content marketing guy too, so I mean it was gold, and you
Yeah.
could showcase the impact and the the reach of the content. And I remember working with the LinkedIn team who was behind all that, and they were so passionate about it, and it was such a great tool. And then it just got sucked into the broader ecosystem, and then failed there again too. So I get it.
Yep.
But yeah, there's some great advocacy tools there. But I think it really comes down to empowering existing employees to be storytellers and providing them the
Yeah.
platforms to do so. Yeah, how have you gone about that and sort of activating the ambassadorship?
So when I came here to GoDaddy, it was they'd gone through some other programs and it just didn't work out. So we went old school. So I went ahead and worked with our team and said, okay, it's gonna be some hand holding. But if we want to get this off the ground, we're gonna come up with the images that, if there's not preview images that are showing up, we will create the graphics. We will come up with the messaging that they can use. We'll teach them how to tag, how to use a hashtag, and then have them share that. And then along with that, we'll use UTM tracking, which is free to everybody with Google, right? You can pop a link in there, use the UTM tracking, and then also add in tracking on the back end with Greenhouse and have them share it out. So we just create a Slack channel, put messages in there, a few a week, and then move that up from, just different, content that either we were creating or curating, and then using high priority requisitions and applying the same logic there. So we went from that to eventually using a program, and now we have a full blown tracking with that as well. And yeah, I think the tracking it's great. I think we still have ways to go at all these programs, even in house or the vendors that they're using. But that's how we built it out, and we went from like 20 people to easily over 100 plus. I mean, there's still room to grow, right? I'm not going to say we're in the thousands. I think that's tough to get. There's a lot of work, but we're in a much better position.
That's huge. And yeah, no, thousands is nice, but hundreds is like exponential reach beyond just your primary channel. So I think that's tremendous, man. It should be applauded. Uh,
Yeah,
how?
thanks.
Oh, of course, of course. And I think the job there is keeping the content flowing for them to distribute and disseminate with their own networks. How do you keep them engaged? Is it like a gamification? Is there contests, competitions?
Yeah, definitely gamification. I know others may have different thoughts, but I think people love competition, one, and then they love getting paid for that. So looking at top two who have the most shares, top two who have the most engagement, and it's not something that I just started here. It's something that I've done since I've been in the employer branding space. But doing that and then awarding, if you can give them a gift card, if you have points with an internal reward system, that helps out because it could be 20 or 30 bucks, but money is money. That's a good pizza or a couple of drinks at Starbucks, and it's free. All it takes is a little bit of effort.
Absolutely, and I love that. It's also a form of recognition, right? I think
It
that
is.
that goes so well with the talent engagement, talent management function, who are trying to find ways to invigorate and help existing employees fall in love again with the company. So, great way to
True.
spotlight people, showcase that they're valuable and they're valued as well. So yeah, everybody listening, don't overlook the power of employee advocacy programs beyond just talent attraction. Engagement and retention is a huge piece there too. Um,
Agreed.
yeah. So, look, I'm conscious of time. I want to make sure that we give be respectful of your time. So I only have a few more questions for you, but one was,
Sure.
what is your vision for this space as we see it expanding? I mean, there's so many more people doing this work now than like 5 years ago, or else I'll
Yeah.
even say pre-pandemic. What is your vision for the future? Where do you think that employer brand is going as a function?
I think it's going to be definitely a mainstay at every company. I mean, having been at several companies and seeing, the layoffs when things are not looking so pretty. The openings are popping back up there. Teams are not being obliterated. I still think that is happening, but I think definitely seeing us more as a mainstay in companies. Also, I think you're going to have it where maybe employer branding teams do branch out, right? Maybe they join a service center, or they're not just sitting underneath, marketing, comms, or TA. They're seen as something of their own. Because we always talk about getting a bigger seat at the table, but it comes with a lot of hard work and dedication to educating people to make that happen. But I do think that's something that you're going to see happen if it's not already at some of these companies that we've interacted with. It's going to be something I'd say we see in the next 3 to 4 years.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, it's funny. I think I said this earlier this week on another podcast that I would love to see employer brand be its own function. And I don't know if the organizations are ready to conceptualize that yet, right? Because they still have to.
Yeah.
They're still thinking in terms of, well, who does this support, or what does this work? Like, who's best, I guess, positioned to own it? But
Hmm.
it makes sense because it has so much reach into every part of the business that it should be its own independent function. So I'm with you 100% there. I I also think that with this work and the expansion of its importance, at least on the minds of the C-suite, that it becomes something that is advocated for, not just at the C-suite level, which is important, but also at the middle management level. And I think
Yeah.
so many times we overlook the middle management layer, but they're using what we create day to day, right? And I think that
Hmm.
that advocacy at that level will only increase as I think we showcase how they can be rock stars, and not only that, but achieve their business objectives as well.
That'd be
All
great.
right. Yeah, man. So last one for you.
Okay.
Um, I would love for you to leave a question for our next guest, who is also an employer brand practitioner. And it can be a personal or professional question, but something that they have to answer that you're passing on.
I did not expect this one. Let's see. What is, I guess, what was your biggest failure? It could be personal or professional. What did you learn from that, and how did you make it better?
Love it. That's a great question. With that, Alex, I really appreciate you for taking the time and joining us on Employer Branding Unfiltered. It's been a pleasure. You're
Yeah, thank you.
loads of insight, and would love to have you back, obviously. But thanks for joining.
Thank you. Appreciate it.